We just got another couple inches of snow the other night, so I figured that this was a fitting time to show you how to make these granny square fingerless gloves. This is one of my favorite ways to use up scrap yarn, and I can't wait to make another pair, so let me just show you how it's done. I'm going to be using these 3 different colors for my gloves today. They're all acrylic yarn, kind of varying in size just because it's scrap yarn, but I'm using a 4.25mm hook. We're going to start by making the granny squares. There is the center of the glove, and I'm going to take my first color, which is going to be this blue here. Leaving a tail, I'm just going to start by casting on, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into the very first chain here to make a magic circle. I'm then going to chain 3, and that acts as our first double crochet, so I'm going to put 2 more double crochets into the center of this circle. 1, 2, and then I'm going to chain 2 and place 3 double crochets again into this circle. Again, chain 2 and 3 double crochets into the circle. Chain 2, 3 more into the middle of the circle. 1, 2, 3. Chain 2, and now I'm going to slip stitch that into our 3rd chain, or the top chain up here, to close off our work, making a little square. And then I'm going to bring in my next color, which is this white yarn, and if you wanted to just continue with your middle color, you definitely can. You don't have to switch colors every time I do, but I'm going to then put my hook into one of these corners here and start my white yarn, and then I'm going to chain 3. Which acts as our first double crochet, so we need 2 more double crochets into this corner. Okay, then I'm going to chain 2 and place 3 double crochets into the same corner. Chain 1, and then we're going to put 3 double crochets into this next corner here. Chain 2, and 3 double crochets into that same corner, and then you're just going to repeat that same process all the way around the square. And then I'm going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the 3rd, or the top chain here. And again, you can just keep going with this color if you wanted to, but I'm going to be switching colors. For the final part of the granny square, I'm just going to start with this maroon color, and I'm going to put it in any one of these holes here. And now chain 3. And this acts as our first double crochet, so we put 2 more into the same section. Chain 2, 3 double crochet into the same section. Chain 1, 3 double crochet into this middle section here. Chain 1, 3 double crochet into the corner. Chain 2, 3 double crochet into the corner again. And then you just repeat that same thing all the way around until you get back to the start. Chain 1, and I'm going to slip stitch into this top chain here. So this is where I would normally cast off and bring in the color I'm using for my glove. Like in this one, I have different colors for the granny square and then the gray glove. But this time I'm going to continue with this maroon color to make my glove. So instead of casting off, I'm just going to chain 1. And if you were switching colors, you would then put your hook through one of these holes and then still chain 1. So now we're on our next color. Okay, so now I'm flipping my work, and I'm going to single crochet along all of these stitches on the border. And when you crochet along the spots where we made chains, make sure you're putting your hook into the actual chain stitch and not below it. So I'm going to take my time and really look for where all these stitches are as I go along. Alright, so I'm going to slip stitch into this first chain here. chain 1, turn my work, and go all the way around one more time with the single crochets. I'm reaching the end here, so I'm going to slip stitch right into that first stitch. And then I'm going to cast off my work. This square is a perfect fit for me because it covers the entire back of my hand, overlapping a little bit, as well as the entire front of my hand. If this is too big or too small for your hands, then you can adjust that by taking out or adding some of these rows on the outside. But this is the perfect fit for me, so now I'm going to make one more of these so we can make the glove itself. Alright, so now that we've got our two squares, I'm going to face them right sides together so all of the strings are on the outside. And then I'm making sure that I have all of these stitches lined up as I hold these together. And I'm going to insert my hook into the very bottom corner stitch here on both sides. And then I'm just going to place slip stitches into every single one of these all the way up to the top of the square, making sure the stitches are lined up as I go along. So I'm going through these two and slip stitch. And then these two, and I'm just really taking my time and making sure it's perfectly lined up as I go. And then I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This chain is the start of the top part of the glove here that goes over your fingers, and I have found that about 5 chains is what is perfect for me. It goes to about here on my hand, but if you want it to be longer or shorter, you can take away or add stitches to meet your preferences. So now I'm just going to start ribbing along the side here, and the way this works is I'm going to go into this stitch here, and I'm just going to do a single crochet all the way down this chain. And you should have 4 single crochets all the way down if you're following my measurement for the chain. So then I'm going to skip this stitch here, and then in this next stitch, I'm going to just do a slip stitch. Like so, turn my work, and in order to make that ribbing, instead of putting my hook through the entire stitch like I normally would, I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm going to put my hook through this second part of yarn, and do a single crochet. This yarn is kind of dark, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing, but instead of going through the entire stitch, I'm going to the top of the stitch here, and I can see that there are 2 strands of yarn, so I'm going right between the 2 and catching the last one on my hook. So I'm going to go all the way to the top, chain 1, flip my work, and then again I'm going in between the 2 strands of yarn, catching the back one. And I'm going to do these 4 stitches back down to the glove. 2, 3, 4. And then I'm skipping a stitch, so instead of going into this one, I'm going into this one. And I'm going to slip stitch like so, turn my work, and then rib crochet right back up to the top. And I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around the glove. And then once I get to the end of this square, I'm going to bring the other square back up, and I'm going to make sure the stitches are lined up. And then I'm going to insert my hook through this top corner stitch. I'm slip stitching through both squares, securing them together, and I'm just going to keep on going with the rib crochet. Now that I've reached the end here, I'm just going to line up my 2 rows. And I'm going to put my hook through the top of both of these rib stitches and slip stitch. Come on. There we go, slip stitch. And then the next one. And then I'm just going to slip stitch all of these back down to the square. And then I'm going to cast off. At this point, you should have your 2 squares sandwiched together with one side completely sealed shut, the other side is open. And you can try this on now, make sure it fits. It does look a little bit odd when you're not wearing it, I will admit that, but when they're on, they should be cute. So instead of pulling this glove all the way down until it sits right on my thumb, I'm going to pull it up a little bit because I will be securing some of these stitches later. So then I'm going to bring this bottom part in. I'm going to kind of feel for where I want to start cinching this in. And I'm going to do about here, which is 5 stitches up from the bottom. So then I'm going to count for 5 stitches up, starting from the bottom corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put my hook through that. and through this one, making sure the two squares are lined up. Then I'm going to bring my yarn back through, do a single stitch to secure it, and I'm going to place slip stitches all the way down to the bottom of this square. And now I'm going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 10. And this is going to be for the wrist part of the glove. So again, you can customize the length of this by adding or taking away stitches. So then I'm going to start doing rib stitches back down to the glove, and I'm going to have 9 stitches by the time I'm done with this. And this time I'm going to be skipping 2 stitches before placing my slip stitch to help cinch in the glove a bit more. So then I'm going back up with some rib stitching. And again, I'm going to skip 2 stitches and slip stitch. And I'm going to continue doing that all the way around the glove. And then again, I'm just holding the ribbing together and I'm going to slip stitch all the way along to close it. I personally like having a very tight band around my wrist. If this is too tight for you, then you can just go ahead and skip less stitches as you go along to just loosen it up a bit. But I like the way that fits. So now the last thing I'm going to do is just close this top part above my thumb here. And you could just get a needle and thread for this, but I'm going to use my hook again and pull my yarn through. And then I'm going to slip stitch in just the next 2 stitches. I'm really not going that far down. And now I'm going to cast off. And then the last thing we have to do is weave in all of these loose threads and then make a second glove following the same tutorial. And then of course make sure that you are flipping the glove back so it's right facing and all the edges are nice and crisp once you're done weaving in the extra strings. Like so. Here's my completed gloves. They turned out so cute. I really like these kinds of projects where you can just use up a ton of different scrap yarn and all these different colors. You could also do a different pattern apart from the granny square, like with a daisy square or something else. They remind me of like mountain gloves, if that makes sense, but I'm really happy with how they turned out. Hopefully you like your pair as well, and if the video was easy enough to follow or if you just enjoyed watching it, then please give it a like. Also consider subscribing. I am beyond grateful for every single one of my subscribers, so if you are one of them, thank you so much. I'm so happy you're here, and I will see you again in a few days. Okay, goodbye.